You will be planted in seasons where the only thing that you can hear God say is, trust me. Not great revelations, but maybe God's working on the smallest things. If every song and every word that is spoken from the pulpit confirms what you speak, trust me. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. What do you want me to do? Trust you? What should I do? Okay, I am trusting you, God, but right now you see I have 3 armies in front of me. I've got finances that are sinking. I've got my family that's sinking. I've got my career that's sinking. What do you want me to do? Trust me. Doing nothing is harder than doing everything. And I want to unravel to you something different today. True purpose of His presence. I want to talk to you about this today. The true purpose of His presence is that you would know that you are planted. Planted where? First in your pedigree. Some of us feel that we've been planted in the wrong families. Kuch ho nahi raha, but you are planted in your pedigrees. Joseph and his brothers. Everybody knows of Joseph. He's a young guy, young chap. He used to dream big.
Jacob continued to live in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived. And this is the story of Jacob's family. Joseph, a young man of 17, took care of the sheep and the goats with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's concubines. He brought bad reports to his father about what his brothers were doing. When his brothers saw that their father loved Joseph more than he loved them, they hated their brother so much that they would not speak to him in a friendly manner. One time, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him even more. Do you think you are going to be a king and rule over us? His brothers asked. So they hated him even more because of his dreams and because of what he said about them. He also told the dream to his father, and his father scolded him. What kind of a dream is that? Do you think that your mother, your brothers, and I are going to come and bow down to you?
He started from himself. He went on to freely and openly speak that dream to his brothers. His brothers said, hey, apne baare mein kya sochta hai? He went to dad. Dad said, hey, what are you up to? Do you think I am going to bow down to you? Do you think your mother's going to bow down to you? You know you're the youngest in this family? Joseph didn't think of all that. But I am sure that God planted him in that family with a purpose. So he would experience the purpose of God's presence in this disarrayed family. A family that does not accept my dreams. A family that does not have the finances to lead me through. A family that's not in order. A family where disease and calamity is a normal thing that happens. But he was planted there for a purpose. How old was he? He was 17 years old. He was 17 years old when he started dreaming big. Your family is not a mistake. You are never a mistake. You are planted in your pedigrees for a purpose. So you would experience the purpose of God's presence right where you are placed. The purpose of God's presence is not that everything will work smoothly. The purpose of God's presence is to sustain you through it sometimes. The purpose of God's presence is to strengthen your foundation through it sometimes. The purpose of God will bring you deliverance at the end, for sure. But it is to sustain you through something. It is to sustain you through a storm. If Jesus sent his disciples into a storm, he didn't come and calm the storm right away. He asked them to go to it. They went through it, and God delivered them through it for somebody. It's always something that is done through you for somebody. It's not that God sends the disease, God sends the storm, nothing, zero. That is not acceptable, okay? He's a good father, and he never trains through bad things. He knows how to use even a stick to teach a pharaoh. He can do anything. But he can change everything that the enemy intended for evil in your life to turn it around for good. He's a good God. So wherever you are placed, I want you to navigate and find the purpose of his presence. Why have you placed me in this family? I'm sure you won't get an answer for that. You'll just say, trust me. Trust me. Okay, trust me. You know, days will go by like this. And I am speaking this because I'm in the same season where I'm not getting great revelations, but I am drawing great conclusions. I am drawing great conclusions because I'm walking through it and all I can hear God say is, trust me. Trust me. The next thing I want to take you to is 37 verse 24. What happened to Joseph next? His brothers hated him. His father was not very pleased about him, though he made a big court. He was a dreamer, so that created problems. Then they took him and threw him into the well, which was dry. So this is the third thing, but 37 verse 24, okay, he was sold out. He was sold out, right? He was sold out, and next he was put into a well. This version says well, some version says pit, okay? I remember this, Pastor Leon said this. Pit is a short form for prophet in training. Prophet in training. So if you find yourself in a pit, you're a prophet in training. You might not be called for the office of a prophet, but you are a person in training. You are a people in training. You are placed in that pit because that pit was destined to be a well. You were put in that pit so you could turn that pit into a well. That is the purpose of God's presence. Not that I got sold out. What we look at is the periphery. I got sold out. That person betrayed me. That person sold me. That person walked away from my life. I lost my finances. I am sold. My business is not running. My health is not great. I'm sold out in every area of my life, and I find myself in a pit. But God says, trust me, because the purpose of my presence is to turn that pit into a well. And He needs you in that pit, yaar. He needs you in that pit so you can show who He is in the worst of scenarios. Show me the worst. Tell me the worst that can happen in your life. The purpose of His presence is that you will shine. You will shine like no other around you. Like no other around you. After he was put into the pit, now the pit became a well. Now suddenly I'm feeling good. Arey, kuch to acha hoga. And then he goes into, who bought him? Huh? Potiphar, exactly. He was a well-off man. You know those seasons of your life when you go, ting, and then Potiphar buys you. I went right up there, bro. Now I'm in Potiphar's house. And he was just great doing there. He was a sincere man. He was a faithful man. He did everything that was told to him. He's in Potiphar's house.
Now the Ishmaelites had taken Joseph to Egypt and sold him to Potiphar, one of the king's officers, who was the captain of the palace guard. The Lord was with Joseph and made him successful. He lived in the house of his Egyptian master, who saw that the Lord was with Joseph and had made him successful in everything he did. Potiphar was pleased with him and made him his personal servant. So he put him in charge of his house and everything he owned.
So he's at a high point in life right now, okay? He's in Potiphar's house. He's doing good. He's been made in charge of everything. But what happens next? He thought, now my dream is going to come true. You know, the points in your life don't determine the strategies of God. Where you are doesn't determine the plan of God. What you lack doesn't limit God. You can be in Potiphar's house one day, and you can be in prison one day. But what was the common thing between Potiphar's house and between the prison? The Lord was with Joseph, and He made him successful in everything he did. How can you be? He's in jail, and he's the ruler of jailers. It's a good status to be at. He's ruling jailers. But what's happening right now? He's being trained for a bigger kingdom. He's being trained to rule a free people. You rule jailers. If you're put, where was David? David was in the midst of some mad people. He was put in a cave with all insane people. He lost his army, and now he's around depressed people. Sometimes you'll be put in such situations so that God can exactly show you how you shine, what you carry, who you are. Because the purpose of His presence has to be shown and known to you. It's not about seeing miracles and deliverances day after day after day. It's about exactly knowing the face of God behind it. He never brings you out of a pit and leaves you in the middle there. He'll take you to the palace. That's my God. He went to the prison, and then last, what happened to him? He finally reached his dream. He reached the Pharaoh's house. and now he is ruling from there. There was a purpose that God placed him there. There was a purpose that the presence of God took him there. There was a purpose that the presence of God led Jesus into the wilderness. What it says is that the purpose of his presence is to show you who God is. In your pedigrees, in your pit, in your prison, and in Potiphar's house. That you can see that the purpose of his presence was not just to give me success, but to discover my purpose. When you lack anything and everything, you are called to live in purpose. You know why the, what was that book by Rick Warren? Purpose-Driven Life. Why did that book become like a million best-selling book? Because there are so many people on this earth who don't know the purpose for which they're living. What happens when you live without purpose? You run for 10 days and then you break down because you don't know what you're looking forward to. You don't know where you are heading. You don't know your destination. You're just going. You are called to live in purpose and with purpose because you have the presence of God walking with you. The next purpose of his presence is that he'll test your passion. The difference between Joseph in the beginning and the end was initially he had a dream. There was a dream and it became a goal. What he dreamt of didn't actually look so pleasing as he thought. He had to rule people. He had to talk to kings. He had to manage business. He had to manage people. He had to manage kitsch and gossip and slander and everything. It became responsibility. Are you capable of handling that responsibility? Because your dream is good, but God's going to turn that into a goal. It's not going to be so beautiful all the time. That dream will become a goal when you have to handle people, when you have to handle churches, when you have to handle your work life, your family life. And it's going to be responsibility. That's why your passion is going to be tested. You can be a dreamer at the age of 17, but you got to be responsible at the age of 70. You can't continue just dreaming and dreaming and dreaming. You got to handle things. And God's purpose, the purpose of his presence is that your passion will be developed. Your goal would be birthed. That what it takes to be there would be birthed in you. The potential that it takes to be there would be unraveled. What was Joseph learning all through his seasons? He was learning to be faithful. And he was faithful. He was faithful wherever he was put. Are we faithful wherever we are put? Are we faithful in the little thing that is given to us? Are we faithful in doing the little things that are told to us? His presence is going to test your passion sometimes. And at the end of it, the purpose of his presence is that you would produce root in dry ground. You're going to produce root in dry ground. Let me take you to that reference. Isaiah 53.
Who would have believed what we now report? Who could have seen the Lord's hand in this? It was the will of the Lord that his servant grow like a plant, taking root in dry ground. He had no dignity or beauty to make us take notice of him. There was nothing attractive about him, nothing that would draw us to him. We despised him and rejected him. He endured suffering and pain.
Okay. So this is a prophetic word of Jesus, right? Isaiah is declaring about Jesus. Who could have seen the Lord's hand in this? Another thing that I hear God say is, seek me and you will find me. He always hides in sizes and shapes that you can find him, that you can notice him. If you find the time out of your busy schedule to sow into seeking his heart, the heart of God concerning a situation, the heart of God concerning your problem, and you would just not look at it from the earthly perspective. This is destroying, that is gone, that is sinking. But if you would come back, if you would sow your time into seeking the heart of God about a particular situation, you will reap in finding the hand of God. The hand of God. Who would have thought, who would have seen the Lord's hand in this? The Lord's hand in taking Jesus to the cross. Who would have seen the Lord's hand in this? What we often don't do is that we don't find the time to look at his heart concerning a particular issue. You know what God said? You can feel the heart of God. Say, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Not about the word of God, knowledge of my heart. My people, you miss out on so many things in life because you don't know the heart of God about it. You see the surface issue, but you don't see the heart of God about it. What is the heart of God when I'm going through this lack? Trust me. There will always be flies around. There will always be something that will keep irritating you. There will always be a selling out. There will always be a pit. There will always be a Potiphar's house, a prison, a Pharaoh's house. There will be seasons in your life that you don't understand anything. But you got to unravel the purpose of His presence in the midst of it all. But you have to learn to trust God. Learn. It's a learning process. Hearing and learning is different. There are some people who hear and learn in class. Teachers know it better. But I am not that category. I need hearing and then coming back and learning. And learning is hard. Gymming is hard. Requires a lot of determination and passion and everything. And everything's going to be tested in this season where you're going to discover a new face of God. Where you learn to take root in dry ground. You cannot, it's not going to happen. If you're looking for just being in America so you can produce deep roots and beautiful flowers, not going to happen. You are called to be a generation that will take root in dry ground. I want you to look at the next one. Okay, it was the will of the Lord that His servant grow like a plant taking root in dry ground. What a ruthless God. Wants me to grow here in Manipal. Hopeless situation. Career illa, adilla, nothing. Take root in dry ground. Because when God said that you will go through the fire, it will not consume you. You go into the rivers, it will not overwhelm you. You go through the floods, it will not overshadow you. Did He say, my son is not going to go through anything? Bed of roses for him, guaranteed. No, when you go through it, you're going to know the presence of God as He's the fourth one in the fire. When that baby is in the ICU, he's going to know the presence of God in that place. He's going to know what God can do when no miracle is happening right now. Because I'm taking root in dry ground.